7th board meeting. I am so happy to say that we have 7 board members present, 6 in person and 1 remotely. So welcome back to the meetings, Grant.
Thanks, appreciate it.
The first item on the agenda is item 2A, adoption of the agenda.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
I will note that on our agenda, we do have a public hearing on item 7A, and that public hearing is scheduled to start at 6:30, which is the time we advertise, because that's also the time of how we plan to schedule board meetings this year. So we might have a little bit of an intermission right before that. The next item on the agenda is item 3A, public comments. Casey, do we have any public comments this evening?
We do not.
As a reminder, anyone wishing to provide public comments should complete the request to submit comments form, which is available on our website. These forms need to be completed by 1 p.m. on Wednesday, the day of the board meeting. The next item is item 4A, executive session to consult with an attorney.
I move to enter into executive session for 15 minutes for the exception for matters which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship under Kansas Open Meeting Act, and that we return to open session in this room at 6:17 p.m. Superintendent Dr. Allison Harder, Human Resources Director Jared Giffen, and Attorney Tammy Samoji are invited to join the board for this session. Action is not anticipated.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Yeah, he's there.
Is Grant back?
Grant, are you back? Well, he's not muted now.
Might take him a minute to hop back.
Well, he's there, but his camera's not on.
Can we do the motion without him?
I motion to return to regular session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered by the Board of Education to be routine business items. Approval of the items may be made by a single motion, second, and a majority vote with no separate discussion of any item listed. Should a member of the board desire to discuss any item, at his or her request, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. What are the wishes of the board?
I move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. And it is now 6:20, so we have about 10 minutes before we get to our public hearing on Kansas Avenue. So we will take a break. Okay, thank you for that break. We are now on to item 7A. We will be opening our public hearing to close the Kansas Avenue School Building. Lillian?
We request board approval of Resolution 2024-4, closing the Kansas Avenue School Building and providing for the consideration of proposals for the sale of the same. On January 10th, 2024, the Board of Education approved Resolution 2024-4 to establish a date and time for a public hearing related to closing the Kansas Avenue School Building at 315 South Market Street in Emporia, Kansas. The district no longer has a use for the building at 315 South Market Street. The district believes that instead of continuing to spend budget dollars maintaining this building, it is appropriate to sell the building and reinvest those dollars into the ongoing maintenance of the buildings that are in use. Public notice of that hearing was published in the Emporia Gazette on January 20th, 2024 and January 27th, 2024. Those dates are not more than 20 days prior to the hearing and not less than 10 days prior to the hearing as required by statute. The hearing was held and closed at the advertised time of 6:30 p.m. of this meeting as stated in the public notice. After consideration of all information presented, we ask the Board of Education to approve Resolution 2024-4. The affidavit of publication and Resolution 2024-4 is attached.
Thank you. And now we would like to open that hearing. So anyone who would like to speak about this item, they're invited to come to the podium. Okay, seeing no attendees, we will close the hearing on closing the Kansas Avenue School Building. And now I'd like to open the floor for Dr. Harder or any other members of the district team and the school board to discuss this.
Okay, I was going to share the rationale as well. So this is the closing of Kansas Avenue School Building. So if the board chooses to close Kansas Avenue, the reason that we want to close that is that we've had Crosswinds that's been leasing it, but they've moved out at the end of December. And we do have a specialized program there through Flint Hill Special Education Co-op, but they are moving to another building, another elementary building at the end of our school year. So right now it's upkeep and maintenance, and the building is aging, so we would like to close the building. If the board chooses to vote and close the building, then that would be approved, and then we'd have 45 days, and then you would vote to dispose of the building, and that's when it would go to the legislature for first refusal.
Thank you. And even though you gave me these really great instructions, we do have to have a vote to close the public hearing before we have our own discussion. My apologies. So I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing for the Kansas Avenue School Building.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much. And so do we have any questions for Dr. Harder?
We've talked about this in previous meetings, so I don't believe I have any new questions this evening.
Me neither. I've actually toured the building, and it's aging, and it's probably time to let it go.
I would move to approve the closing of the Kansas Avenue School Building.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We will now move on to item 8A, Capturing Kids' Hearts.
Mrs. Judy Stanley, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching, Learning, and Student Services, is here to present on Capturing Kids' Hearts and will introduce the team presenting tonight.
Good evening. You've done such an amazing job investing in this process for us, and we are so appreciative of it. So we wanted to spend some time sharing with you just some of the components that have made it a little impactful for our students and our staff. I have with me this evening Tessa Santangelo from Jones Early Childhood Development Center. We have Jen McKay from Village Elementary. We have Abby Luttrell from Emporia Middle School, and Mackenzie Baza from the high school. So we wanted to give you the big picture from all of the schools that are involved. It's okay. Okay, so a little background about the purpose of Capturing Kids' Hearts. This process is developed to build that relational capacity and improve our school culture, strengthen that trust between teachers and students, build that self-managing classroom, and that's a real big part of Capturing Kids' Hearts is teaching kids how to manage themselves and work with each other. And it also improves that, creating that kind of accountability. A little history, going back to how this all started. In August of 2013, the Emporia Middle School was the very first school that was trained in Capturing Kids' Hearts. And I remember sitting in this boardroom as that was approved and then hearing from teachers later about that and thinking, I want to do this at Village. Why can't we have this at Village? And 3 short years later, all of the elementary schools finally got that training. And it had such a big impact on many of us. That year, we also had Process Champions training. And so what happens with the Process Champions training is each school was allowed to have some leaders from their school that the principals and the leadership felt they can take and expand the process even more. Jen McKay was one of my Process Champions. So we got that Process Champions training. That's where we learned about the National Showcase. And, you know, for Village, that just started their path to becoming a National Showcase school. In August of 2023, this year, we finally became district-wide, thanks to your generosity with allowing us to use the ESSER 3 money. And that took us pre-K to the high school. In November, Emporia High School got to have a Process Champions training, and all of the other schools, minus Jones, participated in the CKH Recharge. So essentially, they got a little reboost, a little revisit to the process. The consultants, I went to each of the buildings, and I have to say how grateful I was that they worked with the principals, and they designed that recharge around those buildings, so that made it even more impactful. So I think that's a big piece to working with the company that sponsors this. We also had traction visits at Jones and the high school, and what a traction visit is, one of the consultants comes, and they do walkthroughs, they meet with the principal, they meet with leadership, they meet with teachers, just to talk about the process and develop plans to continue to grow. This spring, we are going to have traction visits at the rest of the schools. So that is how our intention to keep moving the process along. And now these ladies are going to share with you some of those key components of Capturing Kids' Hearts.
A big component of Capturing Kids' Hearts are the social contracts that we create with our students. And so a social contract, what it is, it's an agreement on how the students are going to behave in and out of the classroom. And so we create these social contracts with our students the first week or the first week of the semester, the school year, the quarter, dependent on the grade level. And it's super important that the goal of these social contracts is to create these self-managing groups to kind of limit how many times the teacher has to intervene for behavior and things like that. So they are developed by the students, and it's super important that the students get to develop them because ownership is a really important part of Capturing Kids' Hearts, and making sure that the students are taking ownership of the social contract and taking accountability. And so we develop these social contracts based on 4 questions. So those questions are, how do you want to be treated by the leader? How do you want to be treated by each other? How do you think the leader wants to be treated? And how do you want to treat each other when there is conflict? And so we develop the social contract based on our responses to those questions, and our social contract also must include effort, listening, and no put-downs. And these are some examples of some of the social contracts that have been created around the building. And another really important thing to note is our social contracts, they don't take place of our rules or procedures or consequences. Those are outlined completely separately. It's just an additional thing we do to help with, taking accountability and managing, students, creating these self-managing groups. And then once the social contracts are created, the students are monitored on their social contract throughout the day. And I know at the middle school we have social contract ratings. and the students get a rating based on, whether they were self-managing, whether they were being responsible, and just overall following their social contract.
Hello. I'm going to talk about good things. I know lots of our meetings that we have here at the district, we always start with good things. So after the social contract is defined, then every day you start out with good things. This is going to look different in every building. It's usually very short and simple, but it's to get those student buy-in in the classroom and creating a positive classroom culture. Like I said, it's really quick, like 3 to 5 minutes per day. Different students are called on, even the ones that don't raise their hand. You can try to prompt them and pull things out of them. And then you ask questions to show that you're interested and that you really care about what they do. The good things, you want them to share something positive. So it's a way to, kind of get engaged with them and things that make them happy, things outside of school, things about their home life. And it just teaches the leadership skill of positive thinking. So.
I'm going to talk about the Excel model. So I know a lot of teachers and a lot of administration, they go to trainings and they're just they leave the training and they're like, how do I incorporate this in my classroom? And the Excel model is a really great way. It's a great tool to use. E stands for engage. Basically, as the classroom leader, this is the very first step of the day. So it looks like greeting your students at the door. And I know at the high school we do this every single day. It's very rare the occasions that the teacher's not outside standing, and I know they do this at the middle school, and I'm mostly certain they do this at elementary schools as well. Explore for X. This is basically as the teacher, you are exploring your students' needs, okay? This looks like taking attendance and asking them how they're doing. If a student is responding like, oh, I'm okay, or, that's how, as a teacher, you can tell that they're probably not having a great day, whatever's going on. And then you, as a teacher, you can explore what's going on and hopefully make their day better. Communication, this is usually the teacher dialogue, but it's not just teacher speaking about the content, it's also student and teacher, it's also student with student. And I think this is probably one of the best parts of the Excel model because this is where we see students not really on technology, they're actually talking and communicating using those skills that we as their teachers have modeled. Empower is probably one of the very most important ones in my opinion. This is where you see the students actually doing what you've taught them. This is where we want students to be at, where we teach them how to do it and then they're doing it on their own. And then launch, basically just you're launching them out of your classroom for the day, having a meaningful ending. This could be like a quote at the end of the day. This could be a video that you show them. But you see good things around the explore section of it. And you see social contracts as well during the engaging because you see students engaging and hopefully following the social contract. And I do want to point out that the Excel model already uses 2 of the words that we believe in this district, empower and engage. So I think that was a really important model to use in our classrooms.
Okay, part of the discipline model is the 4 questions. And these are just very simple questions that we can ask to get kids back on track. They're not punitive, it's just to help recorrect your environment. So if a social contract word is broken, such as a student isn't listening, instead of calling them out in front of the whole class, you're going to keep teaching, get them situated in what they're doing, and then go over to that student quietly and whisper, what are you doing? And hopefully they'll answer. If you don't, you wait and you ask again. Then when they answer, I was talking. Okay, well, what were you supposed to be doing? Oh, working on this. Okay, well, are you doing that? And hopefully they say, no, I wasn't. They usually do. And then you finish by just saying, well, what are we going to do about it in the future? And then they will give you an answer. Then if they don't follow it, you will just wait, which is one of the hardest things to do is the wait time. Teaching 4th grade, teaching kindergarten, it works in all levels at the elementary level. They really do answer, they do respond. And then there's also questions that have come out since we first started CKH for disrespect. And these are working really well, especially in our intermediate classrooms with, how are you talking to me? And just asking the question so that they have time to self-reflect. Oh, that was disrespectful. And then they can go through those questions too. If the behaviors continue, whether it's a misbehavior or a disrespect, then that's when you can refer back to your social contract and to the consequences that you have built together with your social contract, so that it's just expectations that they know and they can self-manage. And then I think I'm the next one at the beginning too.
We're going to have each of them share a little bit about the impact in their building or in their classroom and how things are going.
So I'm at Village Elementary, and we started CKH in 2016, I believe. And we have been a national showcase school for 6 years in a row now. We've already put in our nomination, hoping to hear back for a 7th year, hopefully. The best part about it is the whole building, you feel it when you walk in. It's something that we live by. It's something that's our philosophy. It's just who we are now as a building. So you can see that with the kids. You can see that with the staff, the morale, everyone from top down. It's just part of us.
So this is our first year, so it's a little bit different than Village, but it's really cool to see the kids. They really care about like their peers. They want to hear the good things they say, and believe it or not, they do help develop the social contract. Now, we use visuals and we prompt them a little bit more than the older kids, but they do have that buy-in where it just feels like a positive community. So it's been really helpful and impactful for our whole building.
I'm at Emporia Middle School, and the social or CKH not only has, a big impact in my classroom, but I think it has an enormous impact on our entire middle school. When I really think and reflect on what areas of impact CKH has, two really stand out to me. The first is that CKH really allows all of our students to have a positive adult in each student's life, which is something that not all students have at home. Whether it's greeting students at the door, doing good things at the beginning of every block, giving them those positive affirmations, they have some form of positive interaction with an adult, which really helps us build those positive relationships with our students. Which leads me to my second area of impact, which is I think it really enhances our classroom management. At the core of classroom management is relationships, positive relationships with our students. And so CKH really focuses on building those positive relationships, and then in addition having things like social contracts to ensure that we have self-managing groups and students are held accountable. It all just enhances, I think, our classroom management at the middle school. And greater or enhanced classroom management leads to higher student engagement, higher student achievement, and just creating a better learning environment for all of our kiddos. So those are kind of the areas that I see, impact the most at Emporia Middle School, but I think the benefits for both staff and students go well beyond even what I could mention. It's just a great research-based and relationship-driven program that really allows us to meet students where they're at that day and build them up from there.
I'm Mackenzie. I'm from Emporia High School, and I think capturing kids' heart has been a really, really amazing component and tool that we have used in our high school. I know maybe listening to this, it's kind of like high school students really actually use this. Like, do they actually do social contracts? Do they actually do good things? And they do. They love it. If I don't do good things, because I forget to do it in one of my classes, I'm always hearing, Ms. Paza, we didn't do good things today. It's just a great way to start off. Like Abby mentioned, it's just there's a positive leader for a student. Dathan Fisher, the principal at the high school, always says that there's a place for everyone, whether it's the theater, or theater club, whether it's playing basketball, whether it's Latinos Unidos Club, anything like that. There's a place for everyone. And as Abby mentioned, not only is there a place for everyone, but there's a positive leader for everyone as well. I also wanted to mention that this is my first year teaching, and when I received this training in August, I really felt, I was nervous at first because, first year teacher, but after the training, I really felt like I was welcomed with my staff members. We learned how to have that positive environment, not only with our students, but also with our staff members. So you see it a lot with teacher to student to student, because we're modeling that with to our students, and then also staff member to staff member. And Randy Wells, who is the weights teacher at the high school, who is probably taught there for over 30 years. He's been there for a while. And since this was our first year doing Capturing Kids' Heart at Emporia High School, after the training, he mentioned, he said, I want to make a note real quick. And he told the entire staff member, like, out of all the years that I've taught here, I feel like because of this training, this is the very first time I felt really excited to start off our new year. And I think that was really impactful because I thought the exact same thing as a first year teacher. And imagine someone who received this training many, many years later of teaching, and it impacted him as well. So just Capturing Kids' Heart has not only impacted our students, but it's also staff members with other staff members as well. Thank you.
That's why we have the teachers tell the stories. And a little quote from Flip Flippin, who is the founder and chairman of the Capturing Kids' Hearts. If you have a child's heart, you have a child's mind. Essentially, if they know they're cared about, it's much easier for them to learn. What questions do you have for us?
Well, I have 3 things. Number 1, you gave us far too much credit. All we did was agree to pay for it. You did all the research. You sold us on it. You guys do it in your classrooms and in your schools. So all we did was say, okay. So thank you for that. 2, what does CAFOODie stand for in the social contract? Like maybe like kind, honest. That's a lot.
Keep your feet and hands to yourself.
Oh, okay, that makes perfect sense. And then 3, I really love the question for disrespect, how are you talking to me? And I can see myself using that at home instead of who do you think you're talking to? So look, we all learned something this evening.
And expect, I hear that at school.
Right. Yeah, not who do you think you're talking to? How are you talking to me? And great job. Love the stories too.
I mean, I love this whole presentation, so thank you. But I think, Mackenzie, hearing from you and how it's so important for the high school students to also have it. And also, these are skills for life. I mean, of course, we focus so much on academic achievement, but how we show up for each other is also really, really important. And these are just life skills we're teaching our kids. And it's just an amazing story about what's happening at the high school. So thank you for sharing that. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming this evening. Just great work. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 8B, ESER 3, Capturing Kids' Hearts.
Just going to carry on the theme here, okay? We have a little over $400,000 of our ESER 3 money that has not been spoken for. And so we are coming with a proposal to spend a little bit more of that on the Capturing Kids' Hearts process. We would like to take advantage of the opportunity to continue to grow while the funding is there, and while we have a lot of momentum going. Some of the things that we are looking at would be for a Capturing Kids' Hearts Recharged Live. Essentially, this will be an event for our entire staff, all classified staff. You would too, if you'd like to join, because this would be what we would be doing at the very beginning of the year. So it would be 3 hours of the Capturing Kids' Hearts staff, and it's for everyone. Transportation, maintenance, whoever. Everybody can come. We would do a Capturing Kids' Hearts 2 training. Essentially, some staff members from each of the buildings would get to participate in this. Not all. It would be almost like a process. It would be taking our current process champions, and this becomes another level of training for them. That was something that was offered to a couple of staff members at Village once they got the National Showcase the first time. there's been 2 people, and no one else has had this opportunity. So we'd like to grow that opportunity for our process champions, since they're the ones that have continued to be the focus, and they develop the new training, and they grow the program. We would like to offer culture shapers. This is for our classified staff. So our paras, our aides, transportation, up to 200. You'll also notice we're requesting money to pay them. So this would be outside of their work contract, because we know we need them in the school buildings when school is in session. So we would offer this hopefully in August before they're all on duty, and it's all about them. If we have a group of paras and aides, they'll design it around them. So this is for the classified staff, and we've had classified staff asking for that for years. We would include another process champions training. So it would add to the group that's already process champions. So we just keep increasing the leaders in the process. Plus, some of our process champions have moved along. Other than the high school, the middle school and elementary, we haven't had that training since of January 2017, so it's time to add to that group. We would have our campus traction visits. This is when the consultant would come to each of the buildings and walk through. It's one of those things, our goal, our hope is that we will have all National Showcase schools, and that we'd be a National Showcase visit, and this is one of those things that would get us there. I spend a lot of time talking to the consultant that does that, and she continues to say how impressed she is, and really that's a goal for her too. So we would like to include that. The District and Campus Premium is the digital platform that right now our staff has. It includes lessons. It's got resources for their launches. It is a wealth of resources for our staff, and we'd like to continue to offer that as well. And then there would be the salary pieces. So we would have the classified salaries, and then the Capturing Kids' Hearts 2 would be a summer training, so we want to be sure we can pay our certified staff too. Essentially, the ESSER 3 money would be used for all those, and then we would continue to use Title IIA for the new teacher trainings in July, like we have done in the past. So we are requesting, we are making that request to you for your consideration. What questions do you have for me?
I don't have any questions, but I'm so excited to see that the classified staff will have their own training. I think that's so important, so I'm excited to have that.
I mean, how do we turn this down after such a brilliant presentation? So,
Strategic.
Great timing.
I will make a motion to approve the use of ESSER 3 and Title IIA funds for additional Capturing Kids' Hearts training.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 9A, Emporia Public Schools Climate Survey. Dr. Harder?
Yes. Well, we welcome Dr. Alicia Thompson from Kansas Association of School Boards leadership team back. We love having Dr. Thompson with us. This is the first time that we have partnered with KSB to conduct a climate survey, and we have learned a lot through the process.
All right. So first of all, good evening to you all. Good evening. Remember, I'm a kindergarten teacher. Remember what I told you? You guys got to talk to me. So good evening to everyone. How you guys doing tonight? I know you're nice and full. I heard you had a great dinner, and so I hope I can keep you awake. All right. So I'm going to start out just talking a little bit about just kind of grounding ourselves before we dive into any of the data. And what we know about data is if you can't measure it, you can't improve it, right? And so what I want you to think about as we go through this information tonight is that data is important for us for continuous improvement. Data should not be an opportunity for a gotcha or get people mad at you or any of those kinds of things. It's really about taking a look and reflecting about where you are and then thinking about what are the next steps to take us from good to great, because you guys do have some good data that we're going to review this evening. All right, and again, a district climate survey really is just an opportunity for an annual checkup to see how we're doing and making sure that we're moving in the right direction and that there's not anything that we need to go and fix, right? But just to kind of continue to do better with those things. Same thing as when you go to the doctor and get your checkup. It's the exact same approach. So I'll start out talking about the survey demographics. And so you had a pretty good number of folks that opened the survey and maybe tried to attempt to do a little bit of it. So you had about over 1,200 participants that opened that survey and began to take, and some of them went quite a ways. But totally completed from the beginning to the end, you had 719 participants that answered all of the questions. And of that demographic of the people who opened the survey, you had 56.3 of those were your parents or a guardian that identified as that. 32% of the participants were staff members, and 11.7% were community members. And so that's kind of your overall demographics of who completed, opened, I guess I should say opened, and then attempted, and then those who completed the survey. The survey was broken down into several different components that were in the survey. It measured work environment, student environment, performance on instruction, performance on school climate, performance on two-way communications, and the performance of leadership. So those were the components, the themes, I should say, that questions nestled underneath those for you to be able to gather some data in those particular spaces. And again, I will repeat, surveys are good for continuous improvement. That is how a district gets better. Is always looking and reflecting and improving the processes in which you have. And again, it takes you from being a good school district, which you already are great, because I love you guys. You guys are awesome. I've spent some time here, and you guys are a good team. But you got to go from good, and how do you get to that great is the goal. All right, so let's delve into a little bit of the data and some of the themes that were identified in the survey. There was a question on the survey that says, based on what you and your child experienced at school, right? So it was kind of an area there. And as we looked in that particular area or that theme there were some strengths that kind of popped out. And what was cool was the strengths were my child is making adequate progress at the school, right? And remember, the survey was built where they had individual schools, they had their surveys, and they have data sets, and then there was a district-wide. So let me be clear, I'm taking the entire district, so I'm taking all of the schools' data, and then we compress that into a district-wide look. So the data that I'm sharing and the areas that I'm working with tonight are from your district, not an individual school. But again, there is data for each individual school, and then we took all of that data and built it into a district-wide data set. Okay, and that's what we're looking at. So across the district, people are feeling that their children are making good progress in the schools. And they also say that they feel welcome when they come to the schools to visit, which is really cool, and that's what you want. As you think about growth areas, and I'm going to talk just a little bit so that you kind of get the perspective, and you guys look like you have it there, but when you look at this, you'll see that some of these areas are kind of very close, you know, that you kind of had to really just look at the number and just pick that one, but they could be like a 0.1% or a percentage close, right? So you got to take that into perspective. But we did just pick what the data said specifically and put it there, but you'll see that in your data that things were very, very close in a lot of areas. But the area of growth that we lifted out here for this evening's purposes is that my child receives additional help with skills he or she finds difficult. So that is an area that as a district, you can continue to look at all of your data sets there, but that could be something that you can think about and decide how, as a district, we can move forward. And we'll talk a little bit about how some of those things can happen as we move forward. The next area that we've highlighted and lifted out of this data sets was based on your child's experience or what you have heard from others. Okay, some of the strengths that you all have, those top areas, was the overall appearance and cleanliness of your buildings. So kudos to your custodial staffs and your building administrators and staff, period, for keeping buildings in good shape, and they're looking really good. The second strength that was identified in this particular area was technology for student use at the school. So that's another celebration. As a district, you all should be commended for having that vision of technology in the classrooms and in your schools. An area of growth an area of growth are pretty much probably in every school district is availability of adequate parking. And that was an area that maybe could be looked at to see if there's areas that where you can improve some of those systems there within your schools. The next theme and area of concentration that, as I said, there were those themes, is the performance on instruction. And so as you think about the strengths, you have some pretty good strengths here. The district curriculum is followed at this school. So as a district, you are buying curriculum, and the parents believe that the teachers and the staff in the buildings are following the curriculum that you all have asked them to use. The second strength is instructional materials, which is your books, the technology, the workbooks used at the schools are appropriate for the needs of students. So that's a great space for you all to be able to celebrate. And then your area of growth, there was a tie, so we placed both of those items there, which is students are enthusiastic about learning. And the second area is when students are not achieving as they should, there are effective support programs. And if you remember what we said earlier above, there was another one that kind of supported this particular one as well as being an area. So there you have a theme there that you can think about and have further conversations as you continue to dive into your data. The next area is your performance on climate. Think about those two pieces, your climate. The staff at this school work as a team. So people believe that in the schools, people are working together as a team. That's a strength. A strength also is it is a pleasant place for students and staff to work. Again, people are feeling pretty confident. We're working together, and it's a pleasant place for us to be as far as students is concerned and staff. Okay. An area of growth that was identified in the climate survey is discipline policies are fairly enforced. So that may be something that you can look into and delve into and kind of peel back that onion and see where there's some areas where you can go from being a good performing district in this area to great. Okay. All right. And then the other theme that we delved into was the performance on two-way communication. Strengths there is when there is a concern about the school, parents and patrons do not hesitate to call the principal. So again, that goes back to your welcoming environment. People feel welcome, they feel comfortable, and feel like they can approach the principals or other folks in the buildings to be able to support them. And again, that support, you can see the data just supports it over and over. Parents feel welcome at the school anytime. So those are all great things for your community and the school relationships. And the area of growth is parents are actively involved in the school during a typical day. So that is another area where you can peel that back a little bit, figure out what that kind of means for you, and if that's even an area that you want to invest some time and energy in exploring for improvement. We placed this on the data sets because it was really a very, very high percentage, which is something that as a district you all should really feel good about, is your district-wide overall communication system. Do you guys have a communications director in here? Oh, there, okay, there he is. Okay, I didn't know if you was here. I didn't see you behind me. Okay, this is very impressive here. The information that you are sharing with your community is right on target. the data says that whether you're getting that information from an email or a text message or phone calls or your printed mail, the amount of information that you're receiving as parents are receiving is just right. So I thought that was really cool and impressive. And you all have done a magnificent job, and I'm sure your director, along with all the rest of you, put together a great communications system that should be commended. The performance of the superintendent leadership. The strengths of the superintendent is she's willing to provide firm and definite recommendations to the board, and that the superintendent understands current legal trends related to the school district. Those are strengths that your community and your staff see in your leader. And then the area of growth is that the superintendent is flexible. And so as you think about all of these things again, these are all areas that we can work, that are celebrated, and things that we can work on that could be improved. The performance on the principal leadership, which the strengths are, the principal has demonstrated the ability to keep students, families, and staff accurately informed. Goes back to your communication team. See how the data just nestles and supports each other. And then the principal gives accurate and honest evaluations of personnel and educational programs. And again, another example, you guys were here listening to evidence and data from your teams tonight about some of the programs that are happening in your schools. Again, all evidence that it's happening. And then the area of growth is the principal has demonstrated the ability to delegate authority to his or her administrative staff. So that could be something to, again, to pull back that onion, understand what that means, to see whether or not that's an area that needs to be looked into and improved upon. All right, so those are your themes in your areas to celebrate, and I am a celebrator, so I think that's the first thing to do is to celebrate all the cool things that are happening in your district and the evidence that is happening because of the data that you all have in front of you at the district level, as well as individually at the individual buildings. I also would like to talk just a little bit about this data is just your baseline data. As you talked, you said that you haven't had a climate survey in a while, and so this is your opportunity to kind of have that baseline so that every other year, it looks like you're going to return to every other year cycle for your surveys. Every other year, you'll be able to take one data set, match it to the next data set, and begin to see if there are trends of things or if there are improvements that are being made in those areas, and you'll be able to use your survey to be able to accomplish that. And then again, as I said, you can just use your results to go from good to great. I also had been talking a little bit to the team as we were going through the data as a team to talk about a few things that can help to be able to think about how you can use your data and also to make sure that the people who filled out this data sets know that there's something happening. That's the worst thing to do, is ask people to fill out a survey and then they see nothing happening with that survey. And so a couple of things of examples that I could give to you to ensure that you are taking active steps with this data is to make sure that when you're having your board meetings, and again, there were people that came up and did presentations, and again, how does that link not only to your survey results and responding to what they're asking, but also how is it linked to your strategic plan? People need to see that the things that are happening within your district is linking in to the feedback that they're giving you. And you should always have that on a slide. We would always have it on our slide to say, because of the survey results, we adjusted these things, right? So that people know that you're adjusting and that you're listening. Then you'll have more people that will want to fill out the survey, and they will continue to fill out the survey because they know you're doing something. And sometimes you are doing it, but because you're not saying it and they can't make that connection, they think, well, they just took that survey and do a thing, right? But you've got to show them and connect them to the results from the survey. That will be another space from where you're going from that good to great, and having that opportunity to be able to share with folks about the good things that you're doing and the adjustments that you're making. And then again, as part of that is regularly monitoring your progress. And again, things that you're working on, bring them back to the board. Talk out loud in the public sphere about those things so that people know that you're working to improve. All right, so that's what we have, and I am open for questions if you have any. Again, you do have the district-wide piece in front of you, but there are other data sets that for the schools also. So there you have it. Any questions you all have of me?
I do have a question, and this is maybe more about the tool. As I was reading the survey, and this was so great, like so much really good information, but I'm also mindful that when I look at some of the questions, there's a column that says not enough information to rate items. And so when you have, just over 750 people complete the survey, but then we also have some questions where 333 people said they didn't have enough information to answer that question. Is it better, so I guess my broader question is it better to do like a really big survey like this and just send it out there, or is it better to try to do more targeted surveys so that way, parents and guardians would get one survey and the community members would get another survey and then our faculty and staff would get another survey to really help us drill down a little bit more? I mean, this is a KSB thing. I'm curious because some of the numbers is pretty staggering of folks who just couldn't answer the questions.
Yeah. Where I come from in Wichita, we use one survey because it is difficult already to gather all that data, but then to put it all together to determine what is kind of a little bit difficult. However, what you could do in the future, because we do have the data sets to do, is to pull your data, right? What did the staff say? Because you have different groups who filled it out, right? What did the parents say? What did the staff say? What did the community say? But they all have the same, but you can break that down so that you can hear the voices a little bit clearer as to the areas. So that could be a suggestion.
That's a really good one, thank you.
Yeah, I think to piggyback off what Jamie was saying, this might be more available in the building level data sets, but some of the questions that parents or community members might have marked not enough information for would not have applied to them, like the after-school care. Right. I would imagine a high school student's parent would probably have not really been paying much attention to what after-school programs are available at the elementary level, for example. So I wonder if that plays a part as well in why they might have said not enough information.
And again, you can even break it even down further. What are the elementary parents saying? What are your middle school parents saying? And what are your high school parents saying? So you have the data sets to be able to break that all out and be able to really flesh out. That's why I say you got to peel back that onion to see exactly what is being said by whom so that then you can make the appropriate adjustments.
I don't have any questions. There's just a lot of really, really good things in there. And then the stuff to work on, too.
From
good to great.
No questions for me, but thank you for compiling all this. I think it's going to be very useful information.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you so much for coming tonight, and thank you for all your help with the survey.
You're more than welcome.
I would like to add before we move on, so principals will have their building level, and so they will work with their building leadership teams, staff members, PTOs, and site councils just to focus on their building. And then if board members would like to see those individual buildings, I do have those to send you if you'd like those electronically, so just let me know.
Thank you. I did have one note. One of the improvement areas was more parking. And that is definitely something we have prioritized in all of our buildings through our bond project. The next item on the agenda is item 9B, Memorandum of Understanding for Emporia Recreation Center Steering Committee. Dr. Harder?
All right. Well, so we have spent quite a bit of time, we being Tom McAvoy, the Executive Director of the Emporia Recreation Center, and Trey Cocking, City Manager, on working on an MOU to pull together a steering committee. for the rec center to look at those next steps. So if you will open that MOU, so this is actually the document that has been signed by the Emporia Recreation Commission when they met on Monday. The City Commission met earlier today, and they signed it. So on page 2, you will see how the steering committee would be, how that representation would work. So for the Board of Education, we would have one member of the school district, but really the intent behind that would be most likely a board member. And then the board would also appoint a community member that would be on the steering committee. So each, both the board members and the Board of Education, the City Commission, and the Recreation Commission would each have 2 people, and then the Lyon County Commission would have 1. And then you'll see the 3 members at large. And then for ex officio, if staff members of any of those organizations would, if the board or the commission would like to appoint them to the steering committee, they would be ex officio, so they would be there to offer information, but they would not be voting members. It would only be the steering committee that would vote. So what questions do you have?
Looks nice and even. Yeah.
Good. I think we worked very hard, very quickly. We were thankful for an attorney from Lathrop and Gage that helped craft this, and then took feedback from, as Trey was getting it, from city commissioners, and then Tom from Recreation Commission, and then I was working with board leadership. Then that's been very helpful. So came together very quickly.
Allison, well, thank you for all of your work on putting this together. I'm really glad to see that we have sort of, more equity on the committee. Do we have to actually name who we would be appointing to the steering committee tonight, or do we have?
No.
What's the timeline to get our names submitted to the steering committee?
Well, Jeremy, did you talk about that Monday evening?
Yeah, we decided, because we had called a special meeting for the purpose of passing the MOU, to just save for the Emporia Recreation Commission, who we're going to appoint for our next meeting for the Rec Commission, which would be late February. So I think as long as it's probably the next Board of Education meeting, that would probably be timely. I don't know off the top of my head if the city appointed their person already. I know who they had intended to when this was previously worked on, but I don't know if they took that vote today.
Okay. So Jamie, would you like at the next February meeting for us to bring this back as an item to name the people that would be on the steering committee, or, okay, we can do that. We can add that as an agenda item.
Yeah, I think we'd have to approve them as a board, I believe, so
Okay.
that'd be appropriate for the next.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Did you have a question? No.
Any other questions? Okay, this is an action item.
I move to approve the MOU for the Emporia Recreation Center Steering Committee as submitted.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 9C, District Highlights. Dr. Harder?
Okay. As always, I'm excited to share information. So one of the things when we were working on, one of the topics when we were working on the strategic planning was about school spirit. So if you would like to attend a bowling meet or a wrestling meet, you would see a lot of school spirit. So you think a lot about basketball games and some of our other more popular activities, but there were, when I went to the bowling meet recently, there were so many students that were cheering for each other, and parents, you couldn't even see the lanes that they were bowling on. And they were high-fiving one another. It was, and the other teams were there, but you couldn't really tell there were any other teams other than Emporia. So it was awesome. There's just lots and lots of student and parent support and cheering. And then I believe one of our students, Dessa, was interviewed by KVOE. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that, please do. Student behavior training, so that was last Friday. So elementary principals, Mrs. Stanley, Dr. Mickelson, and myself joined Jennifer Casey, who is a former school psychologist for us. And so really talking, we just got down to the nuts and bolts, and it was a carryover from our December training, and great engagement from our principals, and really getting into very specific situations that we can really support students and get them to a really positive, productive space. William Allen White, so both Jamie and Jen joined for the board tour, and so we looked at school families in each classroom, so visited the different classrooms, and so every classroom was represented by a student of every grade level. So they were mixed and they were families throughout the entire year. And then that culminated to an assembly to talk about and highlight our model trailblazers. So every certified staff member had an opportunity to name one or two students, and as they brought the different students up, then they would talk about what they brought to the school, why they were a model trailblazer. Then after that, they had, so it's kind of like catching, like good tickets. So any staff member can write a good ticket for a student, and then it goes into grade level buckets. So when students' names are called and they go by grade levels, they get to choose a prize. But the bonus is that if a staff member has given that specific ticket, they get an additional Jeans Day. So Tell was very intentional about that, because he wanted to see an improvement and an increase of those tickets. And so he was getting a lot of tickets. And then our student support specialist found a loophole. They put their names, both names, on one ticket. So then when it was drawn, they both got a free Jeans Day. So I think they're going to start getting more creative. Darian Westerfield is the Associate Athletic Director from ESU, so he was just in for a tiny little bit, but he joined a principal meeting to introduce himself and then was outlining ways to involve the schools with ESU. So he was going to give passes to future athletic events, so he's trying to find ways to engage the school district more. This morning, we actually had our JDAC meeting, and we had a really great conversation about how do we pull together and really work together to market Emporia in a better way. And so how can the larger businesses, the city, the school district, everyone start promoting each other rather than us trying just to promote our school district. We're all responsible for drawing those families in and drawing in those professionals. Winter sports, so winter sports was last Friday. That gym was packed. If you were there, it was packed. We had the King and Queen candidate announcement, and then we had the mini dance performance. And I'm not sure how many little mini dancers were out there, but there were a lot. So that was really exciting. And then Bo Welch was telling me that he's been approached by other potential sponsors about the video and the scoreboard. So they would like to do even more. So that's really exciting. There might be some other opportunities there. Jordan Young at Emporia Middle School had invited myself and some other people from the middle school, and then wanted to extend that to board members. And thank you, Jen, for being able to make that. We were out there yesterday afternoon to see student science presentations, and bless those sixth grade hearts. I just remember when I was in high school and trying to do a speech. I was in high school. These are sixth graders, and they did, a really, really great job. And then this afternoon, at the Emporia High School Art Scholar Awards. So we have 6 members of our students that have been able to get to the state level. So out of thousands of entries, we have 6 students that are going to be represented. So we have Finley Harjo, who is receiving a gold key, Connie Osario, who has a gold key. We have Alina Bear, 1 silver key and 2 honorable mentions. Cassie Anderson with an honorable mention, and Elaine Stair, honorable mention. So I asked Finley, who a former Walnut student, to show me what her project was, and actually Nancy Horst's granddaughter. It was just amazing. There were these gold butterfly earrings that looked completely professional that you would buy in a jewelry store. They were beautiful. So our art teachers are amazing, and I was talking to one of the art teachers, and I was just saying thank you so much for what you do for the students. And of course, they're always very humble, and it's always about the students. Students bring the talent, but their quality of instruction and their dedication, how they refine what the students do, we're just very, very thankful to have such amazing art teachers. So it's been a great last 2 weeks.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for Dr. Harder? This is definitely a highlight of our board meetings. I really appreciate hearing what's happening in our schools. Thank you. The next item is item 10A, health insurance broker services.
To keep the good news going, we have Mrs. Pam Stranathan, Assistant Superintendent of Business Operations, to talk about choosing an insurance broker.
Thank you. I leaned over to Judy and I said, how did I end up after the good things with the insurance? It's a good lead in, right? It makes it feel, woo, let's go. Okay, so to go over, I'm just going to go over a little bit of a timeline since it feels like forever. Doing this with the holidays and everything really pushed it out, but it really, 4 months is what it did. So August, went to the Health Insurance Committee, shared with them our concerns about the current broker, what we would like to do, got the blessing from the committee to come to the board, came to the board in September, ended up getting agreement and appreciating the support on that to move forward, put out our RFP, and then had we had 4 RFPs that came in. They came in, each gave a 20-minute presentation to the committee in November. We had a shared drive that we gave out to the committee. The committee could add questions, sent back stuff to the brokers, asked for more questions, kind of gave them one last wrap of things that they could send back. And then we ended up meeting with the committee on the 30th and went over. If you look under the administrative content, you'll see the grid in there, which gives the 4. We had IMA, CBiz, Crisser, and Bucati. And if on the left side there, you'll see the themes. So the themes between what they provided and then also what questions came out that we asked all of the schools that I had made contact with in reference to. You'll see the plan where they prioritized it on fully funded, partially self-funded, open enrollment, were they willing to do face-to-face, virtual, and a lot of this information initially came from them, and then these were the questions when you see the school districts that contacted when I just asked them, if I ask you these questions, where would your district stand with the service that you were providing? Performance guarantee, that was the thing we saw out of the last contract with the last broker they took out in the second one. So if we're not happy with the service, what would they be willing to do to compensate in that situation? Cost was all over the place. That's either a set cost, it's based off of commission from what we would get back from our medical services and our drug services, all the way to where they could negotiate afterwards. Ones that wanted to negotiate afterwards is a little harder to work with because you're kind of, it's kind of like buying that car and going, oh, how much is it? And then after you buy it, you pay for it. So also going down reference information, if you see down below, the reviews was just their overall review. If you did an A+ rating or a B rating, what would that look like? Going all the analytical data, that was another thing that was important. The committee felt like that was important. I believe the board felt like that was important too, of how we were going to get that information, how often are we going to get that information. One of the things that I did share with the committee is I think it's important. We set up a consistent plan with the broker to come back to the board and give feedback to the board, and it gives the board opportunity to ask questions also. Going on down there, considering changes, like if there was anything, if they were looking at changing or not changing, we did have some districts that asked for their names not to be shared because they were looking at maybe going away and just asked why, and so they shared that information. Contributions, that's something important. How do they contribute back to the district? And do we have to reach out, or do they come to us saying, hey, we want to work with you, we want to sponsor stuff for your district, we want to help participate and be a part of your district? And then going on down to the other, which is just where they were connected and how they were connected in some manner to the district. And it was just kind of the other stuff they had shared in their presentation. So you have copies of the RFP also in there. And then you also have a copy of this information. The committee came back with IMA as their recommendation to move forward with.
Thank you. Jeremy and Leslie, do you have anything to add as members of the insurance committee?
So I wasn't able to be at the second meeting where the insurance committee put together the final recommendation for IMA. I had work obligations that day in Topeka, but I had sent an email to leadership prior to that to just explain what I thought and kind of gave my top two, but IMA really knocked it out of the park when they did their presentation. It really felt like a full court press, like these people were engaged, they were present, they cared about us. I mean, you know, I think they brought about 4 people, might have been 5, really kind of, you know, brought everyone to really show us and meet the team. One of the employees that they have now is someone that some of you may be familiar with, Dr. Andy Koenigs. And then I think the owner or one of the persons actually went to Emporia High School and was from the area. So there seemed to be some genuine interest in, we have a connection to this community, we want to take care of you. But really they just, to me, I felt like they were the most professional presentation that we received, not diminishing any of the other competitors, but I felt like these people are going to take care of us. They're going to take care of my employees. So I felt very strongly that IMA was who I was going to recommend at that meeting, and then I think Leslie was able to be at that second meeting with the rest of the committee.
Yeah, they were definitely the clear winner. I don't know what that dinging is. It's not me. They were, the committee overwhelmingly was in support of IMA. There was no dissension among the group. They're the most affordable. They really focus on the outreach and how they can invest back in our district. The reviews, I want to give Pam some credit here. She called a lot of people, a lot. And the reviews for IMA were overwhelmingly positive. And, she wasn't calling people on their list. She was calling people that she knew. And that makes such a big difference. They know how important it is that when they come to us with premiums, that they're not the same as they are now. They're less than what we've got, because what we have is not sustainable, and they know how important that is to us. And I'm losing my focus. I had one other thing. Oh, they were super focused on increasing participation, and that was really important to us because we know our premiums can go down if we have more people. But the committee did great work. Everyone was engaged and committed and carried their weight, and I just thought it was overall a really good experience. Yeah, and good job, Pam.
And Pam, the cost for IMA is $50,000 per year, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I know you'll all be jealous of this, but in a couple of classes that I teach at ESU, I have to teach about health insurance, and including brokers, which is my least favorite part of the whole thing. But IMA has a stellar reputation, and one of my alums actually does wellness for their employees, which tells you something as well, that they focus on that. And Nick White is the EHS alum that put this together, and I babysat him, which, oh my gosh, I was like, what the what? But no, this is just from outside eyes, those of us not on the committee, just looking at this and hearing what you did, it's very easy to have confidence that this is going to be the best thing for our employees, and this is such a big deal for everybody. So it feels good to have something that we're confident in.
One of the things that I'm excited about with them is their willingness to think outside the box. And I'm not saying the other ones would not. And an example which I shared with the committee was they're even willing to come in. We can do subcommittees, and which we talked about doing is breaking it up to where we've got a subcommittee that's going to do the dental and the vision, and then another subcommittee that's going to do the health. And they're going to meet with them and put together, they're going to listen to those wants and those needs and things. We even went as far as having a discussion as in reference to this face-to-face enrollment, because we hear all different things, some people want it virtual, and some people want it to be face-to-face, and even the committee had shared even doing something even in the evenings to where a spouse could come in also, because most of the time we listen and then we go, well, we better go check that out, and then go back and then come back to it. So I think that's important. And they're also willing to move forward too, which they all were, is if we wanted to look like American Fidelity, and not to, if they're listening, I don't want to panic them that we're not moving away, but there's those options there, to that, not necessarily they'll come in and say, hey, you should, but they'll investigate that for us. So they'll look at our whole package, why they're looking at everything, and give us some recommendations and advice moving forward if there's other things that they see where our staff could benefit from that also. So that's exciting, to have that also, so we don't have to go out and look for something else, that they'll help bring that to us, so.
To hear from Jeremy and Leslie about the genuine enthusiasm is very, very encouraging, because I feel like that's what was lacking previously, was we just didn't seem to be a priority, and it just wasn't a concern.
Yeah, I felt like these people cared, and I felt like the Emporia connection, you could see that there was some genuine skin in the game. It's not these clients that you have that you're working with, it's people that Dr. Koenig remembers, and a system that he's very familiar with. And so it felt very confident. It induced confidence. It made me feel like these are the people I want advocating for my staff.
Well, thanks for all of that great feedback. This is an action item.
I would like to move to approve IMA Corporation to broker health insurance for the school district as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Pam, and the entire insurance committee for all your work on this. I know it was a lot. The next item is 11A, future board calendar dates. Our next meetings are on February 28th, March 27th, April 10th, all starting at 6 p.m. here at Mary Herbert Education Center. And we are at item 12A. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.